Hello class. Alright, so I am going to be going through Unit 9, Day 1. There are two main things that I'm going to be going through. I'm going to be going through classifying polynomials by the number of terms and also by their degree, and then we're going to also get into adding and subtracting polynomials. So the first thing you need to know is how to classify polynomials. There's two different ways that you're going to be asked to classify a polynomial. One of the ways is by the number of terms. So you're going to look and see how many different things are being added and subtracted together. Once you figure that out, then you can classify it. So if there's only one term, it's called a monomial. If it's got two terms being added, so something like x plus 5, two things are being added, that's a binomial. Think of a bicycle has two wheels, binomial has two terms. Trinomial is where you're going to have three terms. Tricycle has three wheels, trinomial has three terms. So something like x squared minus 5x plus 6. That would be an example of a trinomial. And then 4 or more is just going to be known as a polynomial. Poly means many. So it would be something like x cubed minus 5x squared minus 6x plus 2. You have 4 different terms being added or subtracted together. The other way that you're going to have to classify polynomials is by the degree. You're going to be looking at x, or whatever variable there is if there isn't an x, and look and see which one has the highest exponent. If there is no x at all, the degree is 0, and that's known as a constant. So a constant typically is not going to have an x at all. It's just going to be a number like 6. That's a constant. If the highest exponent of x is 1, it's a linear. So if you had something like x plus 2, the highest exponent is 1, that's known as a linear. Quadratic is where the highest exponent of x is 2. So something like x squared minus 5x plus 6. The highest exponent is a 2, so that makes it a quadratic. Cubic is where the highest exponent is going to be 3. So you might have something like 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10 minus x or something. The highest exponent of x is 3, so that would be an example of a cubic. And then the highest exponent, if the highest exponent is 4, that's called a quartic. So something like 10x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus 6. Highest exponent of x is 4, so that's called a quartic. So we're going to practice a few. We're going to classify it by the number of terms and by the degree. So for number 1, when we're classifying it by the terms, we count how many terms are being added or subtracted. We have 1, 2. 2 terms means that it is a binomial, 2 terms. So it's a binomial. And then by the degree, we look at the highest exponent of x. So the only x that we have is this guy. The exponent's technically a 1. So if the highest degree is 1, it's known as a linear. So it's binomial and it's linear. Number 2, we have 1, 2, 3 terms being added together. 3 terms is a trinomial. And then we look at the highest exponent of x. We have 3, we have 2, and then there's a 1. So the highest one is 3. Degree of 3 makes it a cubic. So there's that. Number 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms being added together. 4 terms makes it a polynomial. So that's what we'll write down. And then we need to look at the highest exponent of x. We have a 4, we have a 2, and we have a 1. The highest is a 4. If the highest degree is 4, it's a quartic. So that's what we write. And then number 4, the last one is 6. There is a total of 1 term. 1 term makes it a monomial. And then we look at the highest exponent of x. There is no x at all. So technically, the highest degree is 0 because there is no x there. So this is known as a constant. If there is no x, the degree is 0, making it a constant. Alright, so the other thing that we covered in Unit 9, day 1 is adding and subtracting polynomials. Here are some rules over here to the side to help remind you how to add and subtract x's and things. Remember, you can only combine like terms, so x's have to be combined with x's, x squared with x squared, x cubed with x cubes, numbers with numbers. When you do add them together, you're going to add and subtract the coefficient, which is just the number in front of the variable. You do not change the exponent. Okay, so if you have something like 2x squared plus 3x squared, it's going to be 2 plus 3 is 5, but it'll still stay x squared. You have 2 x's that are squared plus 5 or plus 3 more gives you 5x's squared. You're not going to make it 5x to the 4th. So let's try these guys, and we're only going to combine like terms. Notice there's a plus sign. I have an x squared and I have a negative 3x squared. Those can be combined. Negative 3, and this is technically a 1, is negative 2x squared. Then I have my x's. I have a negative 5x and a negative 4x. Negative 5 plus negative 4 is negative 9x. And then I have a plus 2 that can't really be combined with anything, so I'm just going to tack that on at the end, and I'm done. Number 2 has subtraction. When you have subtraction, you can keep it as subtraction if you'd like. What I like to do is I like to change it to add the opposite. So what I do is I make this a plus, and then I make everything after the minus, I turn it into its opposite. So this is a negative, this is a positive, and then this is a negative. That way it's an addition problem, and it's exactly like number 1. Now we're going to look for combining like terms. I always start with the x with the highest number, so that would be this guy, negative x cubed, and there's nothing else to combine it with, so I'm just going to write that down. Then I go to my x squareds. I have a negative x squared and a positive 7x squared. Negative 1 and positive 7 is positive 6x squared. I have a negative 6x that can't be combined with anything else, so I'm just going to put negative 6x. And then I have 4 and negative 1. 4 plus negative 1 is positive 3. And it's written in descending order already because I went from highest to lowest, so we're good to go. So that's just a quick little recap of Unit 9, Day 1. Thanks.